And so, when you are turned to that which you are longing for, that which you are devoted to, with every fiber of your being, with utter faith, sincerity, commitment, true devotion, what you are longing for cannot help but unify with you, cannot help but reveal itself to you. It is what you already are, and the longing is only here by virtue of that you already are what you are longing for. And the more that the attention is turned towards what you are longing for, without knowing or understanding, without objectifying, you are magnetizing the true attention, the attention of love, the attention of truth, the attention of God. You are magnetizing the remembering of who you truly are, the profundity of who you truly are. The power of utter faith can never ever be overestimated. It is faith that carries you into this truth. Faith is born out of the knowing of who you already are, even if there is a mental overlay that says this is not who you are and you are on a journey. There is a felt sense, which is faith, where this knowing is already alive. And it is this that creates the longing, this that creates this sense of devotion. Of course, the journey that it takes is because the mind intercepts and the mind interprets, and it starts looking for fulfillment of that longing in the world of objects, in the world of things. It starts rifling through the content and trying to find a docking place, a landing place, a place of connection, a place of feeling wholeness. But of course, true wholeness cannot be alive in its fullness without knowing the wholeness of your own nature. You have to know the truth that you are. You cannot move as a fragment trying to attach to other fragments and find wholeness that way. And when we speak of other fragments, it could be through relationship, through connection, but it's also through things, material things and experiences that we can try to find wholeness. Using the sense of being a fragment and connecting in with other fragments, trying to find fulfillment. But true fulfillment can only come through knowing the fullness, the wholeness that is the true nature. And when you know the wholeness that you are, then you are shining in your perfection, and there's nothing that you need. There's nothing that you need, but you can live this wholeness, and you can shine as this wholeness, move as this wholeness, without needing, without desiring and wanting, without fearing. Because when you are whole, when you know this wholeness, you do not fear anything. Because you know that nothing of the world, nothing in the play of the world can touch you. Because you are the untouchable, the invincible. You are the infinite, eternal, immaculate being that has never, ever been touched by anything that has played on the surface of life. It is the belief that you have been touched by the play on the surface of life that acts as a veil, the veil that is Maya. But the Maya is created out of the source. And that is why we are constantly wanting to bring the mind to its source, constantly trying to bring the attention to the source of all things and rest in the source of all things, in the stillness, in the truth, the wholeness that is underlying all things. Because here the mind relaxes in the discovery of its true nature, and you find this fullness, this truth of who you are. And you recognize that you have always, always been whole, always been whole, always been free, always been fulfilled in truth. And the part of you that knows this has always known this. And this knowing, the part that is alive with this knowing, this is faith. This is this quality that already knows. It's deeper than a trust because it's not dependent upon anything. It's a deep felt sense that calls you. It's a sense of connection. It's a sense of knowing. It is what keeps you journeying again and again, deeper and deeper. Because this knowing, this faith is so important and so alive and so here. It is what keeps you still and receiving in the face of adversity. It's what keeps reminding you, keeps bringing the light of awareness forward when the play of the world seems to not be going your way. That there's this faith that knows it's not about that. It brings you to this devotion, this sincerity, this commitment to discover this truth of who you are beyond the mind's understanding. So we could say faith, devotion, longing. It is these qualities, this sincerity that carries us into the possibility of knowing the truth. The deeper the longing, the more sincere the sincerity, the more faith there is. This is like nectar for your true nature. And it feeds the aliveness of this deep, deep knowing. And at some point, it will reveal. So we say, unify with you. It will bring you into the knowing of the oneness that you are. You can come to the being, can come to this moment here now and feel the felt sense of your presence. Can feel yourself here now, just simply being here. the I am presence with no name and no story, utterly stripped of everything, recognizing that when you feel yourself just being here, it is all there is. It is all that remains when all things are stripped from this moment. The felt sense of being here is still here. Here you are, in your glory, just simply being. And the being is still. The being is silent. The being is presence. The being is not someone. The being is one being. One being that is just simply being. Nothing to do, nothing to get, nothing to achieve. It's just to come to this moment with such sincerity, devotion, faith, openness, to come to this moment and give all of yourself at the altar of now. Give all of yourself at the altar of now. Just being here, simply being here, being the offering, being the nourishment, being the presence that just is. Longing without knowing what you are longing for can have a sense, but essentially it is just to fall into the longing. And if the longing has flowered into pure devotion, it is just to be in the devotion. Cannot maybe even know what you are devoted to, but the pull of devotion, that magnetic pull of devotion, it is the self itself in utter prostration to itself, just constantly bowing to itself. It only wants itself. When this is the only desire that is left, you prostrate into yourself and you find that you are in a loop of surrender, a loop of divine surrender where you are bowing into yourself and bowing into yourself and bowing into yourself again and again and again. There is something so profound and unfathomable about devotion. Cannot know where it comes from, cannot know how it flowers. But the truth is that it has always been here. It is the true nature. We could say that devotion is the true nature. It's utterly natural to be in devotion, to be in surrender, to be in perpetual surrender, in utter devotion, falling into yourself again and again and again. So it is to stay close, stay in deep and simple silent connection with these qualities, the longing, the devotion. What do you give? You give only yourself. You give only all of you. That's all. You do not need to give flowers and rice and all the kinds of offerings and oblations that can be spoken of, although these are, of course, incredibly beautiful. But all love wants is you. Love wants your sincerity. Love wants your commitment. Love wants your longing. Love wants your love of love. Love wants all that you are. Love wants all of the gorgeous, shiny, glorious parts of you, as your mind would imagine. And love wants even more, all of the places that you feel are not worthy or lovable. Love wants all of those places even more, because those places are entirely equal in truth. Love wants every single fiber of your being to fall into beingness, Love wants all of you, everything, absolutely everything. So it is not to hold back. It is to allow all of the concepts and barriers to love to fall away, to melt into this moment, to let everything that the mind thinks is not ready, ripe, mature, good enough, lovable enough, worthy enough. It is to bring all of this to the altar of now. Bring it all to the altar of now. And just to be the offering. How do you bring it? You bring it by just being here so fully. No thoughts, no stories, no distractions, just the fullness that says all of me, take all of me into you. Take all of me into you. Let the prayer be the prayer to know the utter oneness with what is longed for. Let the prayer be silent. Let the prayer be the longing. Let the prayer be the devotion. Let the prayer be the silence that says nothing else matters but this silent moment with the unfathomable longing and devotion to that which is. Can call this love, the beloved, the mother, God, the self. Does not matter what words come. The Lord, Krishna, does not matter. It is the simplicity that is wordless and unfathomable. It is integral wholeness. It is the shimmering glory of light itself. And so it is just to be the offering at the altar of now. Do not need to understand how, do not need to understand or know what this even means. It is only ever to feel the resonance. And let the resonance move you. Let the resonance stir the felt sense of your own longing, the felt sense of your own faith, sincerity, devotion. Let these words stir you to feel what is being pointed to. Because when you fall into this, when you feel this alive as your own longing, your own truth, your own fire, when you feel this, then you are in the oneness. You are in the oneness of pure longing, pure devotion. You are in prostration. You are in prostration to yourself. And when you are in prostration to yourself, when you are in this bowing to yourself, by being here now, being here so present, so fully present, the silence says, this is what is important. And there is an aliveness in the field, and the aliveness in the field is met by the fullness of the field, the perfection, the light of the field. It meets you where you are, and it fills you up. It starts to fill you up. Everything that you are offering, it starts to devour, and it fills you up with the light, with the shimmering, with the love, with the happiness, the simplicity of your very own nature. Filling you with the freshness of now, filling you with the glory, the light of your true nature. It is not an either or. It is just about now. It is not about the mind trying to compute, am I doing it enough? Am I trying hard enough? Am I giving everything? It's not for the mind to try to understand. It's to be so immediate, so present, that the immediacy of now just is, and you can feel the fullness. You can feel the fullness just pulling you, pulling you, pulling you into this moment. You cannot do it right and you cannot do it wrong. It's just to feel the truth of your own direct experience of longing, of devotion, of love, of faith, sincerity. There is a purity to this devotion, this surrender, this bhakti. There's a purity to it because the mind cannot get involved. It is so alive to just feel your longing and to just be here. So alive to just feel your sincerity in your devotion and just be here. Be the offering. Be the offering. Be the bowing. Be the prostration. Feel yourself here now, where the presence is so alive that you are the now. You are the moment. You are the stillness. You are the silence. You are the silence that just is. The silence is the stop of all the attention being with the moving, changing, where the attention just relaxes and softens. So we play a trick and we allow the attention first to come to the longing. It moves the attention away from the mind and the thinking. Come to the longing. Come to that which you are truly longing for. Do not be meandering in the mind, thinking about things that are not important. Come to that which you are truly longing for. So we bring the attention to the longing. To start with, it might feel like the mind is involved in that, but we come to the felt sense of the longing, that there's sensation, there's aliveness, there's a purity and a rawness to feeling the longing. What are you longing for? Can bring it alive with a sense of what you are longing for, but you can let it all go in the felt sense of the longing to know that you cannot even really know. Because essentially, however deep we journey into this that is true, we can feel the pull of it, but we can never know it fully. There always remains an unfathomable wholeness that we can only know as our being one with it, but we can never know the absolute wholeness unless we are in connection, in devotion, unless we are unified with that. So it is to just be here. You see, and then suddenly presence is here. Longing brings you to presence. You are so present. You are just here. The longing is always now. The longing is always this moment. It does not matter which means we use to come to this moment. But longing is a very simple and profound way to come to the devotion, to come to what is longed for, to feel the felt sense and that magnetism. So alive, so alive. And in the presence of being here, the silence, the stillness, there is a quality of fulfillment. The longing and the fulfillment are here in the same moment. And this is the taste of wholeness. Because in a way, we could say the longing ripens into devotion. But some might use the word longing, some might use the word devotion. It doesn't really matter. But essentially, that quality of devotion is a quality which continues to surrender into itself, to be in devotion to itself. It's a perpetual flow, pure devotion. It's the prostration, it's the offering, it's the flow of grace. It is the fullness, the richness of life surrendering into itself again and again and again. We could say that the moment, the fullness of the moment, is the here-ness of the moment. It's the presence of the moment, and it's the complete collapse and surrender of the moment. But again, it's here. It's here in its fullness, and it's in collapse. All of this is perpetually happening in this moment, again and again and again. So feel the presence, the stillness, the silence, the presence of being, just simply being here, being the offering, being here now, just as yourself, stripped of all that was keeping you busy, all that was pulling the attention, and just simply being here. When you are being here, you know you are here. You know you are here through the simplicity of your own aware beingness that recognizes that you are here, but it is not really even reflecting upon itself. You just feel the simplicity, the silence, the stillness of this moment, just simply being. Where there is devotion, that which you are devoted to cannot help but come towards you. Because what is nourished is what comes alive. So if the mind is nourished, that is what is alive. But when your devotion is feeding your true nature, this is what comes alive. What you are devoted to, what is nourished, comes alive. So it is to continue to nourish yourself. Continue to nourish the being that you are with all of yourself, with all that you are, all that you can muster. Give it all. Give it all to God. Give it all to God. When you give it all to God, God gives everything to you, gives you yourself, gives you the love that you are, gives you the truth that you are, gives you the purity and knowing of who you are. And in this process, God gives you the play of life. God gives you the play of life in order to receive the flow of grace that purifies and transforms. God gives you everything that you need. You do not need to worry about anything. It is just to keep receiving and keep bowing in prostration to yourself, recognizing that as you fall in devotion, in surrender to yourself, as you just keep turning to yourself, everything that is happening is part of that flow. There's nothing outside of this flow. And the more that you are in devotion to what is true, to your true self, then you will start to realize that everything that you are being given is a holy offering to take you deeper. It's not about what you want and what you like. It's about what is the highest possibility for your soul in this lifetime, the highest possibility of the human life, to realize God, to realize the truth of who you are. And you are given everything in order to realize that. You see, so everything that comes to you is coming in order to purify, transform. But of course, it is about receiving it from where it is coming, receiving it as a flow of grace. It is not to get lost in the separateness of the me and be engaging from that separateness, because then it will have a whole different quality. Then you're in the cycle, the karmic cycle, the cycle of attachment and aversion. But when you are in devotion, when you are bowing in utter devotion to yourself, when you are resting in the deep faith with the knowing of the being that you are, and you are giving everything to this, turning to this, offering everything to this, so that every move that you make is an offering to the divine. Everything, even the mistakes. Absolutely everything is an offering to the divine. You see, you hand it over. You stop taking it on. You stop taking it on. You just keep offering everything that you drink, everything that you eat. You're feeding God, nourishing God. Jyoti's doing it right now. She's having a little snack on behalf of God. Make it all an offering. Make it all an offering in utter devotion. Every move you make in utter devotion to the flow of grace, you see? And then the whole of life is this flow, and you start to feel it. You start to feel it because your attention is pointed to the divine, and the divine is giving you everything that you need to fall deeper in for this momentum to purify and transform. And so life is God's offering to you. It is Mother's offering to you. And so you keep receiving and receiving and knowing that everything that is here is an offering to carry you deeper. So you do not get too bothered about what is happening on the surface. You just start to notice that where there's resistance, then there's some kind of identification. Where there's resistance, there's some kind of refinement happening. Where there's challenge, where there's trigger and charge in the nervous system, there's an opportunity to release some old stress, to meet a part of you that is hiding in the shadows and bring it forward, make it an offering. Give it to God, give it to her, hand it over, hand it all over. And you, as her vehicle of service, you just keep feeling and feeling and feeling the finest feelings without analyzing and evaluating. You keep just feeling the sensations. You keep feeling the sensations and allowing everything that feels like charge, trigger, challenge. You let this be food for her. You transform it through your vehicle into nourishment for the gods. You make it nourishment for the divine by stopping it being nourishment for the mind, right? If you take it on at the level of the pain body, it nourishes the mind and it circles around in the wheel of karma, the wheel of misery. But if you take it in, you have this possibility of resolving the karmic energies and nourishing the divine, turning what seems like pain and suffering and challenge. You have this possibility to use that, alchemize that, turn it into nourishing bliss for the divine. This is the alchemical process that these body forms have the possibility of performing, turning everything into an offering. Even the suffering, even the challenge, we turn it into an offering by just giving it to God, just giving it, handing it over. And where there's a charge in the nervous system, we just let that charge diffuse, unwind, untangle. Don't get involved in the story. Don't get involved in the story. Just recognize, oh, this is old stress moving through the nervous system. Be so aware of how the mind wants to identify with it, make it a burden, make it something challenging, make it something that stops you, make it something, the mind wants to make it something that obscures the truth. The mind gets lost in the jungle of Maya, the quagmire. But take it deeper through feeling the sensation. Let your devotion be so deep that you just feel the sensations. You feel the energetic charge in your nervous system as simple stress, and you let it move through, diffuse, unwind, count itself down. And as it counts itself down, that which feels like choking stress on the surface of life, when you take the mind out of the equation and you let the feelings just be felt, you just feel the aliveness. You feel the aliveness and you let the charge diffuse and diffuse and diffuse. And when it gets to a certain fineness, it starts to feed the divine, because then your devotion can be felt. Then the divine can feel, oh, this is filtering down to its fineness. This is filtering and feeding the glory. It's turning the lights on. It's illuminating everything. And as it illuminates everything, it illuminates the aliveness of the field of bliss. And you start feeling the simplicity and the bliss of just being. And that bliss is feeding the divine. And so the divine feels the bliss, the elevated levels of bliss. Yummy, nourishing bliss nectar. The lights get brighter and brighter. And then, of course, it's all given to you and you start to feel it. Oh, the shimmering light, the brightness, the gorgeousness, the felt sense of the knowing of self, of truth, of mother, of God. You start feeling it. Whoa, great glory. This is who I am. This is who I am, right? So this is how this incredible distillation process works. But what is so important is we don't get lost on the way, because it's in an intrepid adventure to try to navigate the jungle of Maya, right? Because the mind, it wants to intercept, it wants to give it meaning, it wants to find a kind of heaviness and a burden. It wants to suffer because it's used to suffering, right? It's familiar. There's a safety. It wants to stay safe. But deeper than that, we say, what does it really want? What it really wants is freedom. What it really wants is to know its true nature. It wants to unwind. It wants to lose its contraction and tightness. It wants to be food for the divine. It wants to be divine nourishment. It wants to be its blissful nature, its formless nature. It wants to return to the remembering of who it has always been before it got caught in that cycle, because just for a little while, like a few thousand years, it got a little too dense to get through the filter. But we let it come through the filter. We let it distill through the filter of feeling, of sensation, of aliveness. And it alchemizes, it distills, it becomes fine enough, fine food for the divine, the bliss. It's so fine, it's so subtle, right? So to feel yourself is to feel the subtlety of yourself. The felt sense of being, it's very subtle. And this is why it takes such presence and devotion, stillness of being, to really feel the subtlety of your true nature, to feel the subtle presence of your own nature, feeling the divine reality as it is right here, feeling the wholeness, feeling the lightness and simplicity of who you truly are. Just being here, just simply being here. It's just about being, about the simplicity of being the true one, being here in utter devotion to this moment, to the now, and allowing everything to flow in its naturalness, the naturalness and truth of being. And of course, wholeness includes everything. It's not about creating a mood. It's not about pushing anything away. It is about being here, so fully, so open, so whole, being the moment that is open to everything. It's not about getting away from anything. It's about being here so fully that you are the awareness of this moment. You are the awareness, the openness. You are aware of what is moving and changing, but you are not touched by anything. You are still and unmoving. You are just here, just simply being here, just as you are. Silent, simple being, formless, the birthless, deathless, unmanifest. So we kind of pull ourselves into the presence through the subtle layers of the manifest, into the unmanifest. This infinite, eternal field of consciousness, the formless, unmanifest, eternal nature. That is the truth of all beings. It's a vast field. You are the knower. You are the knower of the field. You are the vast, open field that is eternal, infinite, timeless. the being that just is. The deeper that this truth lands, the more effortless it is to just allow life to move as it flows. That life is in devotion to itself. It is without condition. And it is to allow the unconditional nature of life to flow and flow and flow in its own nature. Just simply being here as yourself in utter devotion, offering everything that is moving and changing, offering it all into the now, realizing that you are the presence. You are the presence that is not moving and changing. And you can confirm that you are not touched by the moving, changing landscape of consciousness. Just simply being here. Just simply being here, just as you are. Feel the stillness, the simplicity, the silence of just being. Feel the longing, the devotion, the faith, the deep sincerity and commitment to know yourself all the way through. Feel how this brings you to a deeper sense of presence, a deep sense of presence that is just here in devotion to itself, falling into itself, collapsing into itself, saying yes and yes and yes to itself without even knowing what it is saying yes to. It's just to say yes to the longing, saying yes to the devotion, feeling the magnetic pull that is pulling you into yourself. No resistance. What would resist? Giving all of yourself, giving everything to God, giving everything to love, giving everything into the holy fire that is the eternal flame, giving everything to the eternal fire. The fire of transformation, the fire that transforms all that feels to be mine and separate and temporary, transforms everything in the fire into its true nature, into clear seeing of the light that just is, into clear seeing, seeing the self seeing itself, clearly seeing itself, and knowing that this clear seeing is the inner vision, it's the innermost being seeing itself, knowing itself. And this clear seeing happens in the deep silence. The innermost being knows itself on the level of being itself, falling into itself, falling all the way into itself. Mm. Mm. In the presence of now, you can feel that this is the purpose of the life, to hand it all over, to give it all to the divine, to give it all in order to receive it all, in order to receive the grace of knowing yourself. This is the flow of devotion, pure devotion. This is the flow of surrender, being in utter surrender, utter submission to the self, feeling the longing, feeling the magnetic pull, and feeling that deep knowing, that deep faith that already knows, and allowing there to be a flowering, a deep drinking of the nectar of your own knowing. Drinking the nectar of your knowing. You see, this too feeds the divine. Drinking the nectar of your knowing, resting in the truth of who you are, drinking it in, feeding the divine, saying yes and yes and yes, this, resting in the light of the wide open heart that you are, nourishing the divine. And as there is this deep nourishing, this is where it cycles back to you. It comes back in. It comes back in as a flow, and you start to feel that flow, that current that is moving absolutely everything. And as you feel that, you become more open in the receiving of the grace of life. You start to feel that the current of your devotion and your surrender, it comes back as this glory filling you with a deeper sense of knowing. And it also comes back as the flow of life that is offering you the possibility to purify and transform all the places that ego structures in consciousness are still able to pull the attention. And as you fall into this flow, this current that is moving everything, the momentum of your own surrender is moving everything. Once you start to feel this more and more deeply, the willingness to receive, the openness just gets deeper and deeper, because you can feel that it's all one. It's all one movement, all one momentum. There's nothing outside of this momentum. The momentum, the flow itself, is an utter wholeness, moving in order to know itself on every level, all the way through. So, your surrender, your devotion, you're falling into yourself, feeling the longing. You are feeding and falling into this flow, falling into the flow of the unified field, moving to know itself all the way through, to refine itself and to keep bringing more of itself to the surface of life. And this is where feeling your knowing, the knowing of the being that you are, resting in the light of truth, the light of aware being that you are. It is to nourish this knowing, and this nourishing of the knowing nourishes the divine and deepens the knowing. Every moment that you are turned to God is pure nourishment for the divine, pure nourishment for the ever deepening knowing of your own divine nature. This is the glory. This is the great glory. Not a moment is wasted. Not a moment has been wasted. Can only ripen into pure devotion when there is a readiness. And that ripening is to feel the longing, turn to what is true, feel the longing, feel the sincerity, feel that which knows, feel the faith and the conviction and the deep pull into what you have always been, timeless, eternal being. Feel the pull into yourself, into love, into the glory, into God. To come into the glory of God, it is to come into such a deep and gorgeous tasting of yourself. You see, we can go through stages in this process where we are knowing ourselves as the awareness, and it can feel very still and very open. But the glory really starts to come in as we start to taste that divine nature, as our knowing comes more and more alive. We start to taste and truly feel the aliveness of our divine nature coming to the surface of life, to be tasted, to be lived. Feels very blissful and very beautiful, very, very alive. So to just be here in the devotion, in the longing, in the perpetual surrender into that which is longed for, being the offering, feeling the aliveness of the longing and letting that aliveness come so alive. As it comes so alive, you feel the magnetic pull, that there is this force, this power that is beyond understanding, can only surrender into it, be taken, be carried, be utterly devoured into your own divine nature. Being the food for the divine nourishment. Letting every single move be an offering in utter devotion. Life is the living prostration. When you are turning to the divine again and again, the whole of life is a living prostration of the self into itself in utter surrender. You are the living prostration into yourself, just bowing again and again and again. Every single move is an offering. Every single move is an offering.